Joining me live is Jared Mondschein, Director of Research at the United States Studies Centre. Jared, thank you very much for joining us. Yes, that was on just a short time ago. Will that bring any votes? Pennsylvania certainly is the one that she needs.
Yeah, I don't know if Saturday Night Live is exactly going to turn out the vote for her, but it definitely shows a lighter side, shows that she doesn't take herself too seriously, though she takes the position seriously. So, anytime a presidential candidate can get a national TV channel to carry them, I think they're probably going to take it, especially when that shows a more favorable and a positive and lighthearted one. And so I think this plays exactly what she's hoping to do in the last few days. Show she's lighthearted and fun and approachable and the sort of person that people would want to elect for president.
And tell us about the undecided votes, especially in those swing states. How crucial is it and what are you seeing in the polls?
Yeah, I think at this point it's really hard to know where the undecided votes are going. The bigger issue from what I can see is that it's not really a matter of getting those undecided votes between Trump and Harris. It's really, for Harris's perspective, those undecided votes between Harris and the couch, and for Trump, between Trump and the couch. What I mean by that is, are they able to turn out their supporters? There are a lot, we've seen a huge gender difference in this election, with men going for Trump significantly more than women, who are far more likely to go for Harris. But with that said, men are less likely to vote than Trump. Than women. So because of that, a lot of Trump supporters are worried that their supporters, a lot of them men, simply won't show up because they don't care enough to show up. They will stay on the couch. Now, with Harris, women are more likely to vote, and she has more women voters. But can she get them to come to the ballot box and to actually exercise their vote? That is a challenge altogether. So I think right now, yes, you might see them still try to have some moderate perspectives on things and win those undecided votes. But more than anything else, they want to get their supporters to the ballot box on Tuesday.
We're seeing Joe Rogan on screen here. He interviewed Donald Trump for 3 hours, JD Vance for close to 4 hours, getting a lot of response from those interviews and really getting a sense of who they are, as opposed to a short 5-minute interview, for example. What's been the reaction that you've heard?
Well, I think the fact that Harris wasn't able to go on that Rogan podcast, I think, was something that a lot of campaign professionals would say was sort of an own goal on her part. She really could have basically tried to take on some of those male voters who are, let's be honest, a huge audience for Joe Rogan. Most of his audiences is men. And that is really the core of Donald Trump's support. If she could eat into that by getting into into Trump's sort of key demographic, that could prove decisive. But the fact that she wasn't able to do so, I think, was something that may not be an issue that is proving hugely consequential. But given how slim the margins are, could be ultimately something that decides a number of votes in the swing states.
And what are you hearing about people's voting in terms of Democrat? Are they voting against Trump, or are they voting for the policies but not particularly liking Kamala as a leader? I know there's a lot of people who have different opinions, but is it more of a swing perhaps for voters who are going to decide Democrats because they're anti-Trump, for example, or is it they're pro-Kamala?
That's a great question. I think just 6 months ago, when Joe Biden was at the top of the ticket for Democrats, there was a lot of analysis of what we in the polling world called the double haters, basically people who did not like Joe Biden or Donald Trump. And so the question was, all right, they hate both, but which one do they hate a bit less? At this point, we don't really pay as much attention to those double haters because there's not as much hatred for the candidates. Harris actually is showing amongst Democrats a more energized Democratic base than Trump is amongst Republicans by about a 10-point percentage point difference. The fact that Harris just changed by going from the vice presidential candidate to the presidential candidate has energized the Democratic base, has given the Democrats far more of a chance of defeating Donald Trump than it looked like they would have just 6 months ago.
All right, and finally, the governor of Washington activated the National Guard against violence-related incidents potentially in the lead up to the election. Of course, only a couple of days away. What do you make of this, and how concerned are you?
Well, I think we have learned quite a lot from 2020 and January 6, 2021. And, that was a strange election beyond the fact that it was a contested one and one of the closest ones we've had in decades. It also obviously featured significant violence. And I think we've learned from that experience. We've learned in the U.S. government in particular has learned, one, to be better prepared with more safety and first responders ready. And then secondly, we've taken some institutional action, including reforming the way that the Electoral College counting is performed. Congress passed that on a bipartisan basis just a few years ago. And so I think there's a number of ways that governors, as well as those in D.C. itself, have actually tried to learn from prior mistakes and hopefully be better prepared for this election and the aftermath.
Are you allowed to give your prediction on who's going to be the next president?
I can confidently say that it is too close to call at this point. And anyone saying that they can confidently tell you either way is probably lying to you.
Yeah, there's probably not going to be a surprise, is there, if either one of them do come through. But what do you think if it's going to be a big swing for either president to, in the making?
If recent history is anything, I think the fact that Democrats have overperformed since Roe v. Wade was overturned in June 2022, that is something that plays really into their favor. It really energized female voters more than we've seen in a long time. What Trump has going for him is having overperformed polls in 2016 and 2020. But that last overperformance was 4 years ago. So maybe Harris has some momentum on her side, but it's really hard to know for sure just how confident we should be in the polls because, like I said, they've been wrong basically in both directions over the last 4 years.
Yeah, very true indeed. Jared, thank you so much.
My pleasure.